You know, it's kind of funny when you think about it. Some of the smartest people on the planet don't solve problems by charging straight ahead. Nope, they do the exact opposite. They go backward. And today, we're going to crack open the mental toolkit of the legendary investor Charlie Munger to see how this one simple, counterintuitive idea can totally change how you make decisions.
So let me ask you, when you're staring down a really tough challenge, what's your first move? You probably map out the path to success, right? You list all the things you need to do to win. I mean, that's what we're all taught. But what if the best way forward isn't forward at all?
And right there, that's the secret sauce from Charlie Munger. He called it inversion. It's brilliant. Instead of figuring out how to be a genius, he was obsessed with figuring out how to fail. And once he knew what the path to failure looked like, he just didn't go down that road. It's a simple idea that saved him from disaster time and time again.
Okay, so this whole inverting thing sounds great, but how does it actually work in the real world? Well, Munger told this incredible story from his early days that shows just how powerful and even life-saving this little mental trick can be.
Back when he was a young guy in the Air Force, Munger was a weather forecaster. He had one job, not to sound smart, not to make perfect predictions, just one thing: keep the pilots alive. That's it. So instead of trying to figure out what makes for a perfect flight, he inverted the problem.
Here's how he did it. First, he flipped the question on its head. He asked, how could I kill these pilots? What would guarantee a disaster? This brought total clarity. And that led to step 2. He realized there were 2 main killers: ice on the wings or the plane running out of fuel. That's it. So for step 3, he built his entire system, his entire routine around making sure those 2 things could never happen. And the result? No dead pilots. He wasn't chasing brilliance. He was just dodging stupidity.
But here's the thing, inversion was just the first tool in what Munger loved to call his bag of tricks. He spent his entire life collecting these mental models that gave him an edge over everyone else. So let's pull a few more out of the bag.
The next tool is something called a margin of safety. It's actually an idea from engineering. Think about it. If a bridge needs to hold 10 tons, you don't build it to hold 10 tons. You build it to hold 15 or even 20. That extra capacity is your margin of safety. And in life, in your finances, that buffer is what protects you from bad luck, from your own mistakes, and from all the chaos you just can't see coming.
Munger said this one simple piece of advice from his grandfather was worth more than most business school degrees. And it's just so perfect, isn't it? It's margin of safety in plain English. Before you even think about how far you can swim, you figure out where the shore is. You define your safety first before you define your ambition.
He also had this idea he called a latticework of mental models. All that means is that you can't just be an expert in one thing, because real life doesn't stay in one neat little box. You got to know a little psychology to understand why people panic. You got to know a little biology to see how businesses evolve or go extinct. The really big insights, the real truths, they aren't in the little departments. They're hiding in the connections between them.
All right, Munger's next tool is all about learning to see what other people miss. He said that most experts, even the really smart ones, are trained to see the world as flat, like a piece of paper, but he learned to think in 3 dimensions.
And he tells this fantastic story about a so-called expert, a real estate appraiser, who made a mistake worth $500,000. Why? Because he was completely trapped in that flat 2-dimensional world.
See, the expert looked at the world on a piece of paper. He saw the numbers, the acres, the width, the length. He was looking at the map. But Munger understood the territory. He saw the 3rd dimension, the altitude, the actual grade of the land, and the real-world problem of how you physically move dirt around. He saw that new power lines were going to make developing the land basically impossible.
So this expert, thinking in his flat 2D world, came back with a valuation: $125,000. He was precise, and he was precisely wrong. But after they brought in someone who could actually think in 3 dimensions, the real valuation came in: $600,000. I mean, that's the difference right there. That's the power of seeing the world as it actually is, not just how it looks on a spreadsheet.
So you've got all these tools: inversion, margin of safety, 3D thinking, and they all point to one big overarching philosophy that really guided Munger's entire life.
See, most of the world is busy playing one game, chasing brilliance. We're always asking, how do I win? But Munger was playing a totally different game, dodging stupidity. His question was, how could I lose everything? While everyone else was hunting for the next big thing, he was just looking for ways to prevent a total disaster. The goal was never to be clever, it was just to avoid ruin.
And why is survival so important?
Why is avoiding ruin the ultimate goal? Because it lets the most powerful force in the universe work for you, compounding. Your money, your knowledge, your relationships, they all grow exponentially over time. But there's one critical rule. You have to stay in the game. You cannot let yourself blow up, because you can't interrupt the magic of compounding.
And that, right there, was Munger's whole secret. He knew he didn't have to be the most brilliant guy in the room, he just had to be consistently not stupid. So the question he leaves for us is pretty simple. What's one dumb mistake we can stop making today? Because if we can just do that, we give ourselves the greatest advantage of all: time.